Today our topic is nutrition in plants. Nutrition. The intake of nutrients into our body is called nutrition. Intake of nutrients. What sort of nutrients usually we will consume in our diet? The basic nutrients are carbohydrates, proteins, fats. These are the basic nutrients which we will consume in our daily life. All these nutrients are helpful for body growth and body activities, repair mechanisms, and to provide energy. For all these nutrients are required. So, how do these nutrients are obtained by organisms? To discuss about that, we have to learn about modes of nutrition. Basically, two types of nutritions we have. One is autotrophic nutrition. Auto means self. Auto means self. The nutrients, if they will prepare by themselves, then that organisms are called autotrophs, and that mode of nutrition is called autotrophic nutrition. And the second mode of nutrition is heterotrophic nutrition. Heterotrophic. Hetero means different. If the organism depends on other organisms for their food, directly or indirectly, then that organisms are called heterotrophs, and the type of nutrition is called heterotrophic nutrition. Basically, all the organisms in this world, they depends on the plants for their nutrition on plants, directly or indirectly. So, here one question will arise: how do these plants produce? How do the plants produce so much that they are able to feed the other organisms? The same question even arose in the mind of several scholars. In that scholars, one of the great scholar is Aristotle. Around 2000 years ago, he stated that the plants what they are produced, everything they will get from the soil. Since 350 years, we believe the same thing, but in 1648, the scientist called von Helmont, he conducted an experiment to prove the theory of Aristotle, and he conducted that experiment about 5 years. He selected a potted soil and a willow plant, and he planted that willow plant in that pot of soil, and before he is going to start his experiment, he weighed the mass of soil and as well as plant. The initial mass of the soil is around 90 kgs, and initial body mass of the plant is 2.25 kgs. 2.25 kgs, and he covered that plant especially pot with a lid to prevent the entry of unwanted elements into the soil. Then he poured water regularly to that potted plant, about 5 years. After 5 years, again he weighed the body mass of plant and soil. Then he got the result like this. The weight of the soil is 89.9 kg and the weight of the plant is 76.1 kg. And then he analyzed the result. He observed that the body mass of the plant is increased and the soil mass is as usual except with minute variations. Then he given a conclusion that whatever the plants produce, they are not only getting from the soil. That means the substances needed for the growth of the plant do not come from soil only. They also get the nutrients or they also get the substances required for the growth even from water. It is completely states the Aristotle statement wrong. Later, these things were continued by the great scientist Stephen Hulls. Here, the Stephen Hulls was the scientist who proved that the process called transpiration. He proved the process called transpiration. Here, what is transpiration? Transpiration means the loss of excess water from the plant body is called transpiration. Along with that, he proved that the plant, especially the leaves, are responsible for exchange of gases. And he also stated that light plays an eminent role in the production of substances by plants. For the statements of Stephen Hulls was proven and given his support by another great scientist called Joseph Priestley. And Joseph Priestley stated that whatever the air we are breathing, that means the animals makes the air impure, the same air makes pure by plants. And here the plants, that means the plants are making air pure. That statement again proven by one more great scientist called John Ingenhousz. Ingenhousz practically proven that the green plants performs a process in which they will make the air pure in the presence of sunlight. And what is that process? And how do the plants makes the air pure? To know about these answers, we have to compensate the statements, or we have to comprise all the three statements were given by the scientists Stephen Hulls, Joseph Priestley and Ingenhousz. Then we will come to a clarity that the plants performs an unique process in the presence of sunlight to produce the carbohydrates and as well as to make the air pure. That unique process is nothing but photosynthesis. Photo means light. Synthesis means preparation. That means the plant prepares substances called carbohydrates in the presence of sunlight in the specific pigment called chlorophyll. And here, in this process, these making of food materials, especially they will use the compounds like carbon dioxide plus water to produce carbohydrates plus oxygen in the presence of sunlight and a pigment called chlorophyll. That means this is the overall equation for the process called photosynthesis. Just you check out here: carbon dioxide, water, light energy, carbohydrates and oxygen. That means these are all the basic compounds which are produced in the process or utilized in the process. Once again, we will see the materials which are used in the process of photosynthesis. In the process of photosynthesis, the basic requirements are water, sunlight, carbon dioxide and chlorophyll. The major and the first required compound for the process of photosynthesis is water. Usually, the plants absorb the water by roots through soil. You already know about the experiment at your 6th class level. How do the plants obtain the water or absorb the water through roots? Along with the water, the plants even obtain minerals through roots, and these water and minerals, they will enter into the plant body and utilized for the process of photosynthesis. The basic question is here: how do the plants utilize the minerals? We are discussing to solve this question, we have to discuss about a specific thing called urea. Have you seen any time the farmers are sprinkling urea in rice fields? How do they sprinkle the urea? Why they will sprinkle the urea to the rice plants? Basically, urea contains 45% of nitrogen. And here this nitrogen is required to make the leaves green. And with the help of that green pigment only, the plants can produce the food. For that sake, whenever the farmers observe yellowing of leaves in fields, they will sprinkle the urea throughout the field. And immediately after sprinkling urea, they will irrigate the fields, because the urea get dissolved in the water, and after that it will absorbed by the roots into the plant body, and then the urea is utilized by the plants as a nitrogenous compound and helpful for the construction of chlorophyll. And in this way, the water is absorbed by the plants for the process of photosynthesis. And next essential element for the process of photosynthesis is carbon dioxide. How do plants get this carbon dioxide? For the exchange of gases, the plants have a tiny holes on their leaves. That tiny holes are called stomata. Through these tiny holes, basically the exchange of gases will occur. Not only carbon dioxide, and even the oxygen also liberates in the process of photosynthesis will enter into the atmosphere through stomata. And the structure of stomata, if we will observe, it have a tiny pore called stoma, and that pore is surrounded by a specific bean shaped cells called God cells, and that God cells are supported by a specific epidermal cells called subsidiary cells. And here stoma, God cells and subsidiary cells. All these three together, they construct a apparatus called stomatal apparatus. And these stomatal apparatus are required for the exchange of gases. That means entry of carbon dioxide and exit of oxygen. And not only that, have you recalled the Stephen Hall's experiment? Stephen Hall stated that the transpiration occurs through leaves. Even transpiration also occurs through stomata only. So, in this way, the carbon dioxide enters into the plant for the process of photosynthesis. And the next element for the process of photosynthesis is chlorophyll. This chlorophyll is present in the leaves in a specified cells called thalasside parenchyma, and it consists of specific organelles like chloroplast, in the chloroplast it consists a chlorophyll, green color pigment, and these green color pigment used to trap the sunlight and to perform the photosynthesis. How do this chlorophyll acts as a trapping pigment? Actually, it usually traps the sunlight from the atmosphere, especially radiant energy, and utilized for the preparation of carbohydrates. And the next essential element for the photosynthesis is sunlight. Is sunlight really required for the process of photosynthesis? Yes. How do they utilize the sunlight, and how do this sunlight is responsible for the preparation of food materials? We will see by a small experiment. So, sunlight is essential process. Is sunlight is really essential? To prove this, before 2 to 3 days, we have to start this experiment. That is, first you have to take a destarched China rose plant. Destarched, here I specified destarched because as we discussed previously in our equation, the end product of photosynthesis is carbohydrates. If carbohydrates are present already in the leaves, we cannot prove the process of photosynthesis. That's why we have to destarch the plant initially. To destarch the plant, keep the plant about 2 to 3 days in a dark room. Then whatever the reserved starch present in the leaves, it get utilized by the plant. On the third day, take the destarched plant out and cover one of its leaves with the help of a black paper. And here, before you are going to fix the black paper on one of the leaf, you have to make a cut design on it. And then you have to insert this paper on the leaf with the help of paper clips. And you have to make sure that whatever the paper clips are present on the leaves, it should not allow any kind of sunlight. And after the experimental setup, just you move this potted plant under sunlight about 2 days. After 2 days, you detach the leaves from plant and test for the starch.